hire slowly and fire quickly. Resumes, like, people look like rock stars on the resume. And then when you talk to them, you can really tell somebody wrote that resume for them. Because what's on this page and what I'm hearing come out their mouth does not match. So A, are they fit? B, are they available? 3, can I even afford them? Because see, one bad apple will destroy the bunch. Do not be so desperate to fill a role and put a butt in a seat that you create longer problems downstream for your organization. Welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Curtis A. Merriweather Jr. You can simply call me Dr. Kurt. Welcome to the channel. The purpose of this channel is to educate entrepreneurs through education, consultation, and training support services. My goal here is very simple. I want to lower your learning curve, and I want to demystify the business process for you. Now, many of you guys know me from the government contracting space. That's where I spend most of my time. But a lot of things I talk about are just about entrepreneurship in general. But we put the government contracting layer on top. Now, I've been in this space for more than 27 years. So I have 27 years of progressive experience, coupled with some advanced education. Many of you guys know last year I did get my PhD in management. I also have an MBA and a Master's of Science in Project Management. Now, why is that important for you? My goal is to give you both the theoretical as well as the practical, so you can develop the right strategies necessary to navigate this government contracting terrain. On the screen, you'll see my Instagram handle. Please note that my Instagram handle has changed, but I enjoy getting your comments, your questions, your DMs. So you're more than welcome to do that, but also give me a follow. Please note that our URL for our teaching platform is on the screen. That's 8figuregovcon.com. Definitely go check out our website. Definitely browse over to our course store library at 8figuregovcon.com /store. Now, before I jump into 2 final announcements, I want you to like, I want you to share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So anytime we produce new content, you'll be notified most promptly. And also consider joining our channel for exclusive content only available to members of the channel. This month, just like every month, I'll be doing a free information session. The information will be in the description box below this video. It is free, but registration will be required. We do information sessions every month just so you can get to know me better. And I like to answer your questions live and tell you how you can get involved with me if you would like me to serve as your government contracting coach. We will be doing a live event April of this year. Details are on the screen. Definitely go to our website at 8figuregovcon.com, that same URL, where you can get a course. You can also learn about live events. Details are forthcoming for this particular event. I will be in Richmond, Virginia in April. Definitely jump into a live session if you so choose. Okay, I have a great topic for you all today. You've seen the topic of this video. You've seen the topic of this video. And I want to make sure that I demystify the process for you. Now, one of the things we take very seriously here, we are economic contributors. We are economic generators. We have a fiduciary responsibility to provide jobs. We're job creators over here, first and foremost. So we're going to employ the majority of our workforce to support our contracts directly. That's what we do over here. I don't buy into the strategies of subbing out all the work. That's not the philosophy and the ethos that we embody over here at 8-Figure GovCon. So because of that, I want to give you a process. I want to demystify this process of how to properly find talent to work your contracts, that you can employ competent, capable people to do the work of our contracts, okay? In accordance with the FAR, of course, as well as other regulations and statutes that govern government contracting. So You may say, Dr. Kurt, how do I do it? We want to talk about how we do it. First thing you got to do, you got to create a robust job description. A robust job description has to be created. You can leverage a whole bunch of tools. I'm going to keep this thing really, really simple. I want to get in and out very quickly. So you got to create a robust job description. You say, well, what is a job description? A job description outlines the who, the what, where, the why, and how for the role being advertised. Okay. So you need to communicate to the candidates that may see your job so they can self-identify if they are or are not a fit for that role. You need to outline the who. When I talk about who needs the employee, I know you are the one doing the job seeking. I know it's your organization, but I'm talking about here, we're talking about, is this a corporate role? Meaning you're providing support to what I call the back office, maybe support to the executive suite. So are we talking HR? Are we talking talent acquisition? Are we talking accounting, finance, security? A myriad of roles that provide direct support to the executive office. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the who. Is this a corporate role, or is this a customer specific, a customer facing role? When I talk about customer facing, are we talking about direct prime contracting support or direct subcontracting support? So direct versus indirect support. If you're the prime, you have the direct relationship with the customer. If you are a sub, you have an indirect relationship with the customer. Your customer is the prime contractor. So that's what I'm talking about with the who. Corporate or customer specific. You have to also address the what. What services are needed? Are we talking administrative support, artificial intelligence, machine learning, healthcare, cyber, IT, logistics, research? We got to address the what services are needed. When we talk about the what, we have to also address the years of experience. Are you looking for entry-level folks? Are you looking for mid-career, senior, or subject matter experts, also called SMEs in the government contracting game? We have to address the where. Where will the employee report for duty? What is the place of performance? Are they going to be on the employer site or corporate headquarters, or are they going to be on the customer site? Are they going to be a hybrid employee, or are they expected to show up to work every day? These details need to be outlined in the job description. Let's keep moving. The why. Why do you need the employee? Is this a staff augmentation? Now, let me be very clear. Staff augmentation has an interesting definition. But when I'm talking about staff augmentation in our construct, we're talking about providing support for government projects or programs called contracts, prime or sub, aligned with the mission of the department or agency as a prime or subcontractor. So when I'm talking staff augmentation, there's a bunch of definitions. I want to be very clear. In our context, we're talking about providing support to government projects or programs aligned with the mission of the department or agency, either as a prime or subcontractor. So I just want to clarify, that's how I'm using the term. There's typically a period of performance, which is a base plus 2 options. When you are talking to employees, it's going to be especially critical that you let them know it is a contract, and you want to let them know where you are within the period of performance. Your seasoned employees will maybe ask this question. If they've been around the government contracting game and they've been going from contract to contract, they will normally ask you, if they've been around the block a couple of times, what is the period of performance on this contract, and where are you in that period of performance? The closer you are to the beginning of that period of performance, whether you're in base year, option year 1, option year 2, you're communicating to said employee, this contract has a lot of runway left. Like I said, your seasoned government contracting employee staff that's been around the beltway and within the government contracting game for a while may ask this question, so be prepared. The second type of why do you need the employee? Is it staff augmentation support, or is it surge support? This is temporary support. The contract's trying to wrap up for a period of time, and that employee may no longer be needed. You need to communicate this. Is this staff augmentation support, Talking about whether you're a prime or subcontractor, or is this surge support? Surge gives the notion that there's a ramp-up period, and there may be a period where that support is no longer needed. That's not always the case, but we need to just make sure we're communicating effectively to potential candidates. Then the how. How are you expected to perform? How is the employee expected to perform? Are there techniques that may be needed? Are there certain tools they need to be familiar with? When I talk about techniques, maybe it's an agile software development framework. So maybe if you're a software engineer or a software manager, you need to be able to communicate to them. We use an agile framework. We do sprints, and this is the sprint cycle. You need to communicate that. Maybe there's financial modeling that may be needed in Microsoft Excel or some preferred tool. Maybe it's a risk management framework or an RMF that needs to be needed. You need to communicate the techniques and tools that will be required to be successful in this role. Maybe you're using Power BI for visualization, or maybe it's Python or RStudio. Whatever it may be, you need to outline the tools and techniques that's going to better guarantee success on this program. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Once you've talked about and crafted the job description, you have to advertise the job description. You got to make sure candidates, potential future employees, can see what you need. You've outlined the what, the where, the when, the why, the how. Now you got to advertise it so that potential job seekers can find the advertisement. It's all simple. None of this is rocket science. Now, when we talk about advertising the job description, how do we advertise? Now, I know I got a lot of newer government contractors that may not have the budget that some of the more seasoned government contractors can have. So in this particular video, I want to talk about some of the freer tools. Now, recognize they're free as well as paid tools, but we want to focus on the free. You got LinkedIn. That's free. Now, I do know you got some paid versions of LinkedIn, but you can get a free version of LinkedIn. You got referral programs. This is where you may say, maybe you have an employee base already, and you got some great talented folks. You want to attract more people like the type of employees you already have. A referral program is a great way. Typically, if you got great employees, they know other great employees. And you can do a $1,000 to $5,000. That's normal. You can do less. You can do more. A $1,000 to $5,000 referral plan after 90 days. So after they worked out great on that contract, later on, you've actually gotten some money in the door, hopefully at this point, I can now pay at a future date, because I'm using my employee base to help me in my recruiting process. But again, you got to have a job description. They're going to need to be able to send that job description to friends or family that may be a fit for that role. Talking about, we got to advertise the job description. Another way, if you have a website already, maybe you can create a careers page that outlines the type of employees you are seeking. Now, if you're really fancy, you may have an applicant tracking system. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this video today talking about that, but this is basically a database that you can hook up to your website that will capture resumes. But in this particular point, we're talking about the advertisement. An applicant tracking system advertises and also captures resumes. So we'll talk about applicant tracking systems again here briefly in a moment. But we're talking about advertising job descriptions. You also have word of mouth. Talking about mostly free ways to advertise your jobs. You got university career centers. These are free ways. If you got jobs, universities need their students to get jobs. Now, there's a paid one. I'm going to just talk about it briefly. When we're talking about advertising jobs, you got staffing companies. But recognize this is a fee for service. Now, when you start talking about staffing companies, I'm going to recommend that you find staffing companies that understand your niche. If you're doing IT, find an IT staffing company. If you use day laborers, find a day labor staffing company to help you do the job that you need done. There's some companies who focus on healthcare staffing. I know a few. I'm not going to put out any names today. I'm not being paid to give recommendations of names. Now, if you're a student, of course, I give you guys this information as part of your package. But for YouTube, if you want to know some some staffing companies that may be niche for your area, I recommend you do a robust Google search. And whatever you see on the internet, trust but verify. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving right along. Number 3, after you've created your job description, after you've advertised your job description, the third thing you need to do is you need to capture the resumes. You got to capture the resumes. And you say, well, Dr. Kurt, what do you mean capture the resumes? What I mean is you must find a way to store the resumes, either electronically or hard copy. Now, I hope in 2024, you're capturing the majority of this information electronically and not relying on paper. Now, paper is still reliable, but we don't want to be killing a whole bunch of trees, just for no other reason than it's just not efficient. It's not the most efficient way of cataloging this information. Now, when we talk about resumes, you got to capture some keys. Now, all of you guys watching this channel know what a resume is, I'm certain. But we got to capture the name, the address, the phone number, the email address. And I'm going to say this, if possible, you want to capture employment availability. And this may come through a conversation, but these are some key things, some key metrics we need to capture in our resumes. If they have a clearance, they need to specify the clearance level and the last date of their investigation. When was their last background check completed? Do they have a secret, a top secret, or a top secret SCI clearance? And when was their last investigation? Now, based on the type of clearance, the investigation time horizons will look different. And that's all I'm gonna say for this video. Now, in capturing the resumes, you can also on your website have a link for resumes. Maybe it's careers@companyabc.com. You, instead of company ABC, insert the name of your company there. Maybe it's job fairs. Now, they got free job fairs and they got some paid job fairs, but there are some free job fairs. Now, let me just say this. If you're going to do a job fair, you need to invest in having the material to support a booth. At a minimum, maybe you need a tablecloth. It'll be preferable if the tablecloth is branded with the name of your company on it. You may need a backdrop that kind of talks about the company. Maybe it highlights some of the benefits and why people want to work for you. That's all I'm gonna say about that. When you start talking about capturing your resumes, you need to have a database or an applicant tracking system to capture, sort, catalog, search resumes. Okay, I can spend a whole bunch of time talking about that, but we have to keep moving. You have to have a way of capturing your resumes. It makes no sense to go through the process of creating a job description, advertising a job description, and you don't have a way of harnessing the value. In this case, that is the resume. You got to capture the resume. Okay? Now, let's keep moving. Number 4, you got to do a candidate job description alignment. You got to do a candidate job description alignment. This was probably the easiest way I could quantify what I'm trying to say. So let me qualify my statement. What I'm talking about here is you got to compare the actual captured resume to the job description. You got to crosswalk it. See if it's a fit. See if it's a fit to your job description. Some companies call it a job requisition. See if the resume you have in your hand, all of them, see how well it aligns to what is needed in the job description. Hopefully you've done a good job of outlining what's required in the job description so you can now start seeing how the keywords align. Now, some of your tools, some of your applicant tracking systems will help you do this better, but you still need to put your eyes on the job description and match up the candidate resume and see how many correlations exist. The best fit for the role based on job description, what you're trying to do. So all the resumes that came in, I need to be able to rank which one of these best align. Now, it may not be 100% match, but you want to get as many of the things outlined in your job description. You want to see that reflected in your resume. Now, once you do this, you want to rank them. You want to prioritize them. Put them in piles. number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You need to figure out, based on the resumes you have, which one of these are the best fit for the job that I have. Now, we call this a best athlete approach. I got a role or several roles, and I want to figure out which candidates are best for this job, and I want to rank them. Just like you would do if you're going out for a sports team. They're going to look and see what does your athlete profile look like. They're going to have you do some set of drills, and then they're going to prioritize who is best for this job. And based on the slots available, they're going to pick a candidate. That's basically what we're doing right here. We're talking about it in the context of corporate recruiting, okay? So I want to find and identify of the candidates that I have collected, either in the past, at some historical period, which one of these candidates are a fit for my role. And of course, based on their availability. You don't want to be screening people who are not available to do the job. But let's keep moving on. So we got to do a position description alignment based on the captured resumes. Hope you guys are tracking with me. Let's keep moving. Number 5, once I identify the resumes that I have that are a fit, I got to reach out. I got to establish contact. I got to reach out to the folks in my database or the paper copies that I have. I got to reach out and see and determine if they're really a fit. Because let me tell y'all something. Resumes lie. Resumes lie. People look like rock stars on the resume. And then when you talk to them, you can really tell somebody wrote that resume for them. Because what's on this page and what I'm hearing come out their mouth does not match. You got to establish contact. You got to reach out to the candidate. And when you reach out to the candidate, you need to have a conversation. You ain't got to stay on the phone for 30 minutes, but you need to be able to ascertain some key details. Number 1, you got to review the job description. You got to determine if the person that you're talking to on this line, number 1, do they match what's on that sheet of paper, on that resume they submitted? Number 1. And then 2, are they a likely candidate for the role based on the words that are coming out of their mouth? Then you got to confirm their availability for the role. So if I determine they are a good fit, are they available? And if so, when? Do they need to give their current employer a heads up that they're looking to potentially transition? Or are they currently at home? Maybe they're in between jobs. Where are they in their journey? Where are they in the hiring process? Are they an immediate hire? Do they need to give someone a heads up that they're thinking about taking another role? You need to determine where they are. Where are they in the candidate recruiting process? Number 3, you got to determine their salary targets. You got a salary target? You need to know, can you even afford this person? So A, are they fit? B, are they available? 3, can I even afford them? Simple. Can I afford them? If I have a salary target of X and they're higher, do I have the wiggle room to negotiate? If not, I need to say, hey, I don't think this is going to be a fit. I think your salary expectations are not in alignment with what we can do at this time. You got to be honest. If not, you're going to lose money on the hire. You got to, after you get through all of that, they are fit, they're available, they meet our salary target thresholds, then I got to bring them in for a real face-to-face meeting. This is what we call a pre-screen. So after the pre-screen, I'm gonna bring them in for a formal interview process if they've aligned with the things we just discussed. Now, when they come in for an interview, I want to make sure that I have a technical subject matter expert, a SME, someone who knows what they're talking about in the room with you. You may be the CEO of the company, but you may not be familiar with this particular skill set. Have someone who is aware of that role in the room. And you need to also ask some scenario-based questions. Put them in a situation where when you found yourself faced with X, how did you respond? And see if there's some problem-solving ability and logic there. We want to test the logic. Now, some companies, if it's a very technical role, they may have a test. They may want them to code a piece of software. They may want them to explain their methodology for doing some predefined tasks to see if they can actually, if they're qualified. Do they have the logic to do the role that's being required? And you also want to have human resources in the room. So at a minimum, let's just say you are the executive. You're going to be in the room. You're going to have a technical subject matter expert who's familiar with this role, and maybe the customer to see if they're going to be a fit technically. You want to have human resources in the room. Human resources are going to be in the room because they want to see if there's any red flags. Is it going to be a cultural fit? Sometimes you got qualified people in the room, but they may not be a cultural fit for the organization. That if they're not a cultural fit, that may be a bad hire for you. I will sometimes take less talent for more cultural alignment, because see, one bad apple will destroy the bunch. If it a cultural fit, doesn't mean the person's bad, but it may not be the right employee or the right candidate for you based on the direction your company's trying to go in. I'm just saying, maybe they're arrogant and you got a kind of family work culture vibe you're trying to build. There's no right or wrong, but maybe it's not a right cultural fit for your organization. I'm just saying, these are things that I need newer businesses thinking about. All talent is not the right talent for you. Do not be so desperate to fill a role and put a butt in a seat that you create longer problems downstream for your organization. Is this the right person for you at this time? Sometimes you just got to say no. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. So once you've established content, you've done your pre-screening, they come in for a formal job interview, and so far everything is lining up. What you do next? You got to make an offer. You got to make an offer. We got to keep moving them down the pipeline, the recruitment pipeline. We got to keep them moving through the process. We can't let them get stuck. If they get stuck, that candidate may get away, and all the time and energy you've invested would be for naught. Because employees have options. Let's keep moving. Before you make the offer, we're at the offer stage. Number 6, we're making the offer stage. But before we make the offer, so far, everything is checking off. If at any point it doesn't check off, you abort the process. And you notify the candidate that they've come to the end of the road in their process with you. But let's just assume everything is checking out thus far. Before we make a formal offer, we at the offer step, I got to do my due diligence. I got to do my background check. Do your background check. Make sure they're credible, because they look good on paper, but now we got to do some due diligence. Maybe your background process is a credit check. Maybe if they're already in a cleared space, maybe they've already been undergone a very extensive background check to get their clearance. But you want to make sure that maybe there's no criminal history. You want to do a background check, and there's different levels of background check that you can do. But at a minimum, do some background check. Maybe you're going to do drug testing. If they have a clearance, you want to verify that they have the clearance they have, and it's in good standing. It's active. Let's keep moving. We're talking about making offers. After we do our due diligence, we want to make an offer. And we want to make an offer based on our salary thresholds. Because remember, steps back, we asked them what was their salary requirement. And at that moment, we should have determined whether that was a candidate we could move forward with or not based on the financials of the company. What is based on the pre-established salary thresholds. Now, I'm not going to talk about pricing in this video. I've talked about pricing in other videos. You want to learn about pricing? Hop in the class. We could talk about how to do this in great detail. But this is just a quick drive-through so you understand the process. But we want to make an offer based on our corporate profitability projections. Now, I've seen it done 2 ways. Sometimes this process is done by talent acquisition or the actual recruiter. Sometimes at this point, if an offer is being made, it's being extended by HR. I've seen it done both ways. There's no right or wrong way. You just got to figure out the right way for you. Sometimes HR takes over. The talent acquisition has handed over. Talent acquisition, the person who made the first engagement. I've seen talent acquisition take you from beginning to end. all the way until it's time to onboard the employee, which we'll talk about in a minute. Sometimes I'll see human resources come in at the moment of an offer, because you want to make sure you keep that candidate warm and cozy, and you want to make sure you have a way of stepping that candidate through your recruitment process from beginning to end, provided all of the previous steps have been successful. Now, when you get ready to make your offer, of course, salary is one, but I need you to know that every employee is not motivated by salary. Some of them will leave if your benefits are bad. And if your benefits are bad, you need to think about how you're going to counteract that. And we could spend a whole bunch of time talking about different ways, but I'm going to give you one. Let's just say you're not in a position where you can offer corporate benefits to your employees. You may want to give them a stipend toward their benefits. Now, it's going to be completely up to them whether they use that stipend to really go get health benefits, or if they're going to put that money in their pocket. That is a personal decision of the employee, but you need to know how you're going to address not being able to provide benefits if that's top of mind for the employee. If they have left military service, they may have benefits through the VA, and that's quite fine, but you still need to know how you're going to respond to the benefits question. I'm just saying. Now, when I'm talking about benefits, I'm talking about health, dental, vision, paid time off, flexible spending accounts, tuition reimbursement, whatever your company's in a position to be able to provide, and recognize that all companies cannot provide all of that out the gate. So you got to figure out what's important and what's prioritized. But I'm going to make a recommendation. If at all possible, at a minimum, provide health, dental, and vision, and of course, paid time off. You might not be able to do flexible spending accounts or FSAs. You might not be able to do tuition reimbursement. You might not even be able to do a 401k match right now. At a minimum, offer the 401k if your company can afford it. Let's keep moving. Then you need to talk about compensation plan. We're talking about the negotiation. These are things that the employee is going to negotiate. And if you have them in place, great. If you don't, you need to think about how you're going to address the questions before they arrive. The compensation plan. This is not just salary. This could be bonus. This could be profit sharing. This could be stock options. This could be vestiture. So if you got a 401k, when is that money that if you're doing a match, when does that money belong to them? Is it 3 years, 5 years? Talk about vestiture. If that applies to your company, it may not. I'm just giving you some things to think about. You need to think about your competency development model. A big fancy word for saying, how do they move up in the company? If they came in at this level, how do they move into the next level? And have you thought about that progression in your business? Then number 4, relocation package. You may find an employee who lives in Texas and you're in North Carolina. They're fit for the job. How are you going to handle relocation? You got to think about this. There are no right or wrong answers here, but you got to figure out how you're going to provide a great experience for the employee. Or are you going to have to pass on that employee because you're not able to afford relocation? Again, there's no right or wrong answers here. You just need to think about them going in. And that may determine your recruitment strategy. If you know you don't have relocation money, you may not be doing global searches to put butts in seats on these contracts. Let's keep moving, because I could camp out right there, and I don't want this video to be an hour long. Number 7, you got to negotiate the offer. I've already talked about this briefly. So you got to make an offer, and you got to negotiate the offer and expect pushback. You don't get in life what you deserve. You get in life what you can and should be negotiating. Be ready to negotiate. Money does not motivate people the same way across the board. You're going to always have this dichotomy between business benefits versus salary. So just because you're motivated by money doesn't mean your employees are. Especially if you start talking about the differences in generation. Generation Z is motivated differently than Generation X. And Generation X is motivated differently than the baby boomers. So you need to understand how you're going to deal with the generational differences that exist and how they view work. Let me say this in the negotiation process. If you see any red lights along the way that you determine to be detrimental, hire slowly and fire quickly. Let me say this again, because I got a lot of brand new first-time entrepreneurs watching me. hire slowly and fire quickly, because one bad apple will destroy the bunch. Now, as CEO, as chief executive officer, as founder, as chief operations officer, mainly CEO though, and mainly HR, your job is to establish and maintain a robust and strong corporate culture. And this is something you got to always be tweaking and fixing, because it will continue to move. So you got to monitor and you got to control the corporate culture. Do not leave corporate culture to happenstance. You will find an organization that is not like what you intended, what you envisioned, what you imagined. You have to control and maintain corporate culture. Let's keep moving. I don't want this video to be an hour long. Last but not least, you got to establish your start date. You done went through all this work. Now you got to get them through the front door. You got to establish a start date. When will work begin? They gave the last company their 2-week notice, their 3-week notice, their 1-month notice. You got to come up with the start date. When will work begin for them? Now, when you start talking about start dates, you got to be thinking about how you're going to do the onboarding process. Are they going to onboard day one of first day of work? Are they going to onboard prior to work beginning? You say, what is onboarding? That is the process of them becoming fully vested in the company, them becoming a part of the organizational structure. You got to do the I-9 forms and the W-2 forms. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that today. I'm expecting you guys to do some Google or have some great people on your team to help you through this process. But you got to do your I-9 and your W-2 forms. You got to make sure they're a U.S. citizen, because on federal contracts, we have to hire U.S. citizens. We cannot hire folks who are not U.S. citizens to work on federal contracts. I'm talking federal specifically. W-2, they got to pay their taxes. Are they going to be single, married, head of household? What are the exemptions? You got to also do an ID review if you're talking about the I-9 form. Driver's license, birth certificate, passports. They got to make sure they are who they say they are. If your statement of work stated that they had to have certain degrees, you need to make sure you've already, before they show up on that customer site, if they're going to a federal customer site, you need to verify them transcripts. Make sure if they say they got an MBA or a bachelor's in computer science or computer engineering, make sure they really have those credentials. If you are the prime or sub, you have a fiduciary responsibility that what the customers say they wanted, you do everything in your power to make sure that's what shows up on the job site. If they say they have certificates, have you verified them? Do they have the certificates and degrees they claim they have on their resume? We trust, but we verify. Trust, but verify. You got to hand them an employee handbook before they show up. They got to know the rules of engagement. They need to read, understand, and sign to say, I've read the employee handbook. I understand. I need to sign and date the employee handbook, because this is the contract between you and the employee. If there's a dispute, you want to go back to the contract. And for talking to owners, you need to make sure you're updating your employee handbook. If there's an employee dispute, this is what's going to keep you out of hot water and keep you from finding yourself in litigation, because you've outlined the PTO policy. You've outlined the termination policy. You've outlined all of the policies, the cell phone policy on a federal installation, which if you're doing government contracting work, that better be in your policy. So this is going to outline how you're going to behave and move as an employer, and also outline the expectations for a mutually beneficial relationship. Your employee handbook will save you in terms of an employee dispute. It can be electronic or it can be paper-based, but you better keep a copy in their employee file. It's going to talk about the benefit plan enrollment. You need to make sure they get their benefits, whatever benefits you have in that onboarding process. After they get the employee handbook, the next thing you need to be doing is making sure you get them enrolled in the benefits. Employment badges, equipment, logins, any kind of employee merch, making sure your name is on their their corporate shirt if that's required. You want to make sure they're walking around with corporate paraphernalia if that's permissible on your contract. Any kind of fobs, time and expense portal login, laptops, workstations, making sure they understand the chain of custody and what are the expectations when you hand these things to them. That's the onboarding process. But that's all I got for y'all in this video. I wanted to outline what you need to be thinking about as a government contractor in this space, the process. I want to demystify the process. And I did it at 10,000 foot level. I wanted to demystify the process you need to be thinking about as you bring new employees on to the corporate payroll. That's all I got for you. I want y'all to go back and watch some of my previous videos. And I'm going to see you in a future video. Until next time.